The future is here, or is it? This is why I'm right here in Coolidge, Arizona to test drive a brand new, all new Nikola fuel cell electric semi-truck. In this video, I'm gonna take this truck on a short drive. I'm gonna show you the interface, how it works, all of the gauges, and tell you all of the specifications for this brand new truck. Can it actually work for 500-mile trips with a giant trailer? Let's figure this out together. Ryan, can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
My name is Ryan Barnhart. I am the Coolidge Test Track Coordinator here at Nikola in Coolidge, Arizona.
Sweet, and we are in VIN number 2.
Correct.
Because you've begun production on your hydrogen fuel cell electric semi-truck.
Yes, correct.
And this is what I'm driving.
Yes. Yep.
This is pretty exciting.
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an amazing technology, and the speed at which this company's been developing is really exciting.
This truck is equipped with air brakes, obviously.
Yes. Yep.
Because not just electric motor and batteries and fuel cell and a lot of complicated things. And I can see my PSI, so 2 systems still.
Yep. Primary and secondary.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with like our air suspension too as well. So we have the pneumatic system and it's very similar to like your conventionals.
Let me just show that really quick. So here is my dash. This is a pretty large screen, very large digital display.
Yep.
Here's my air pressures, 147 PSI. I also have some battery and fuel cell temperature.
Yep, so similar to kind of like a temperature gauge on your normal passenger vehicles, right? Where you have your temperature for, say, your transmission, or your temperature for your engine, right? Engine oil temperature. That's what we're trying to offer the drivers here. So if they're stressing the vehicle out, you can actually watch your high voltage battery temperatures. And so you're monitoring that, and you have that gauge to let you know if you're starting to get kind of hot, it changes colors. And it's the same thing with the fuel cell, right? It's just like any other normal vehicle. As you start to stress it out, when you have a load and you're pulling up a hill or something like that, you're going to watch those temperatures fluctuate and increase. This just gives the driver more information to know how to adjust if they need to.
That's very important. I think all truck drivers love information, right? Yeah. Because you're, combined weight 82,000 pounds potentially, and you want to have as much information as possible. So let's get going.
Okay.
So I can release my brake, right?
Yeah, so with our foot on the brake, you're going to press the yellow, hold that down for a second, wait for those lights to go off. Then you're going to pull the red one, hold that one for 5 seconds, wait for those lights to go off. So what we're doing here is we're telling the truck that we don't have a trailer. We're going to actually put the truck into bobtail mode. Okay. So you hear the audible tone. We now have that little banner that comes up on the left side of our instrument panel saying, hey,
bobtail
we're in bobtail, right? So this way, let's say a driver accidentally does that when they have a trailer on, saying, hey, are you sure you want to be in bobtail mode? Yes, I am. Perfect. Okay. Now we're just going to hit the D button, hold it down for a split second. We're going to look in the bottom right of our instrument panel. It's going to show us that we're now in D and drive. And then we just move the foot from the brake, press the accelerator pedal.
And I also noticed there's also driver assistance technologies. I noticed there's a little blind spot monitor, right?
Yep. So we have our blind spot detectors that are active. We have our active lane assist. So but it's more of a acknowledgement. So as you start to veer into lane, it's going to let you know that hey, you're too far to the left or you're too far to the right. If you look at that blue bar there, that's going to be our following distance for adaptive cruise control. So as the driver's getting up and operational and they're following their truck, they can set up their speed, they can set up their following distance.
All right, so we all know that electric vehicles have a lot of horsepower and a lot of torque potential, and they're effortless to accelerate. And it's true here as well. This central axle in the back is the drive axle, or E-axle, because the electric motor is sitting basically in the middle. There are actually 2 motors. They work either together or one is maybe applying a little bit more power than the other if there's a traction situation that you're trying to manage traction control and stability. There's also a button to engage basically a differential lock, which is a software way of synchronizing the motors and actually putting power equally to both axles. So you have that ability as well. This is just a tag axle, but total horsepower is around 600 plus. So this is very similar to a current powerful diesel tractor semi-trailer. And well, we'll have to tow a trailer with this to really find out how much torque or how much speed this can gain and how far it can go. But here's some other numbers. For this fuel cell orientation, There are 2 lithium-ion batteries here in the center between the frame rails for combined about 164 kilowatt hours of energy. That doesn't sound like a lot because it's not supposed to be. That battery capacity is basically a buffer because the fuel cell takes the hydrogen, converts it to electricity, exhausts a little bit of water, provides electricity for the batteries, and then batteries can drive the motor to push the vehicle onwards. Of course, there's also regenerative braking. The motor can put the energy back into the battery. So the battery is smallish for this type of vehicle, but this holds 70 kilograms of hydrogen. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that 70 kilograms can provide electricity to push this truck with maximum load for about 500 miles, they say. So right now we're not moving very fast. That was about 20 miles an hour to a little bit lower speed. So is regen braking still kind of engaged?
No, right now it's off. So if you look at the right side of the speedometer, you'll see where it says off.
Yeah.
If you take the little handle over here on the right side and you slide it toward you, you see it says level 1, you can bring it down and you can slowly increase it all the way up to level 6.
Okay, well let me go like level 3, kind of in the middle. I'm gonna accelerate.
Here you can feel just how quickly it gets up to speed. It's not something you would expect from a Class 8 vehicle.
Right. And now let me increase my regen braking. So it's basically also like one pedal driving.
It's not quite one pedal. Yeah, it's kind of giving us that ability to say, I can conserve my foundational brakes, right? And so in those type of scenarios, we want to lean more on the regen because again, we're reclaiming some of that energy. We're building up our high voltage SOC, and then we're not stressing out our foundational brakes as much.
And then there's also an indication of my total energy, right? So
we actually have our high voltage level, right? So if you look to the left of the speedometer there, that's telling us our high voltage battery system is at this, right? That's kind of like our reserve for our high voltage. And we also have our hydrogen level too as well. So if you click on the little molecule on the 17-inch screen, top left corner there, that'll tell us how much hydrogen we have in the truck too as well.
So 37% hydrogen capacity.
Yeah.
And it says about 156 miles of range.
Correct.
Is that based on the current driving style?
Yeah.
Is it kind of learning?
Yep. Yeah.
Because this is not a normal driving style. I mean, this is like a city situation, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, especially with all the pedestrians walking around, jumping on the curbs. Yeah, it absolutely is like a city situation. But
I mean, if we were on a highway, at a constant speed, steady state speed with the load, I mean, then it will recalculate. It'll kind of learn as far as what we're doing. So this is what it's like to get into the new Nikola fuel cell electric truck. As you just saw, this is kind of a manual operation. I could move the seat back or forward. Very easy. There's a little lever. It's pretty standard. Then there's a button on the floor. I don't know if you could see this kind of rubberized button. I can push that and I can actually move the steering wheel just to make it just the way I like it. And of course you could drive this truck traditionally, kind of in this almost like a bus fashion, right? You could tilt it forward towards you and drive it a little bit like a regular pickup truck or a car. So you have all those options. There's a very large digital display. It's almost like an iPad here in front of me. And there's almost like a television sized, computer monitor sized screen right here to the right. And let me show you all the features and what they do.
So on the left side, we have our truck settings. And so if you look here, we have the nice little animation, right? So this little button here that looks kind of like the fueling nozzle. So when we go to actually fuel with hydrogen, we're gonna hit that and it's gonna actually set the truck up. So it opens up the fuel door so then we can actually fuel with our hydrogen. If we look at the little weight right here, that's gonna let us know how much weight is on our axle. So then when we go to get a trailer, you'll see the numbers increase. So the driver has an idea of how much weight is actually on the axle.
And how much does this tractor just by itself weigh?
About 26,000 pounds.
About 26. Yep. And how do you know the weight? Is there like a little height sensor or how does that work?
Our electronically controlled air suspension actually has the sensors in it. And so we have our height sensors and then the pressure in the bags that are actually giving readings to our control unit. That's going to then display it over here.
So it gives you a really good idea about that.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And then over here, so for our drivers that are going to do their pre-trip inspections, they can hit this little light button with the check. It's going to activate all the lights on the truck and the reverse buzzer, so they can get out and they can just do a quick walk around, right? They don't need to come over and hit the hazard button and then hit the turn signals and then check the brake and all that stuff. They hit that, it activates all of them, and then they're going to actually just be able to walk around. So again, we're just trying to make it a little bit more efficient there. We have our different cameras, front camera, rear camera. If we hit the air conditioning, so if we hit our temperature setting, we actually have all of our HVAC controls here. And so we can adjust those there. Our fan speeds here, all of our vents there. If you want to turn the AC off, on or off, that's right there.
Gotcha.
If we come into our settings, this is where the cooler parts are for me. I like these because this is actually giving us information about the truck, right? So this is telling us what software version we're on. We're doing a lot of the software updates over the air. And so as the driver's driving the truck, they might see a little blue cloud pop up over here, right? That's telling them that, hey, software is getting pushed down into the truck. As they come over here, when the truck is now static, you'll see an update button highlight, and they can push that, and then it updates the truck to whatever necessary levels it needs to be at. Down here we have our tire pressures, so this way you have your tire pressures getting checked right there. Just give us a and so the drivers can go through real quick, and this way, instead of going out and kicking it and punching it, they can just come right here and say, hey, here's an active display. Oh, my pressures are right. So this way I know I'm good to go onto the road.
That's very important, because if one, like an inner is at a different pressure than an outer,
yep,
you could have big problems,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah. If we come to our settings over here, you can see the traction control we talked about earlier. You can actually turn it off if you need to, right? So if you're in a gravel lot or something along those lines and you need to be able to get some momentum up and the traction control might be a little bit too aggressive, you can actually turn that off. Okay. Let's say you're going through like San Francisco and you need some hill hold assist, right? So you're getting stuck on these hills all the time.
Yeah.
You can activate the hill hold so that when you come to a stop, when you let off the brake, you don't just roll back like a manual. It'll hold the brakes for you until you can get your foot over to the accelerator and start building some momentum there. So you can turn that on and off there. Here's our diff lock. You can adjust that, automatic brakes. So let's say you're running low on hydrogen, right? But you have 90% high voltage and you say, okay, I'm too far away from the hydrogen fueling site. You can switch over to EV mode and you can drive in EV mode for an extended period of time and you're not using your hydrogen there.
How much capacity is it? Like over 700 kilowatt hours, or?
On the EV mode, it's going to be dependent upon how much SOC you have.
Okay.
So as you're driving along, right, you're using that battery SOC to continue moving. So it kind of depends on what the level is at where you're at there. Let's say the technician needs to tilt the cab or you need to look for thermal fluid. You're going to access that here, set the vehicle up, and then you can tilt the cab. But there's an option there. Here's our sunroof that we talked about earlier where you can actually pop the hatch open. And so let's say you don't want the windows open, but you want a little bit of airflow. You can actually vent that open, and so you get a little bit more airflow there too. Okay. Our wiper settings and stuff there. We get into our settings or our systems, and so let's say you're on the northern border and you're going between Canada and the US, you can switch between US and metric there. I tend to choose a 24-hour clock. That's just my personal setting. And then you have some of your other brightness and audio settings in here, and so it's very streamlined, right? You have the two sides and then 5 setting menus, and so it's
and the
not
navigation
hard to
as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and the map navigation as well here.
Correct. Yep, and then this is where your radio and your Bluetooth would be. So if you want to connect your phone, you can go through that. You have your FM.
And then, like you said, the state of charge or hydrogen, and of course the phone integration.
Yep,
with your...
so if you want to make your phone call and stuff like that,
And what is the total range? I saw some information about 500 miles.
Yep,
is
so
that
the range
fully
is
loaded?
up to 500 miles, correct.
Fully loaded,
yep.
Full gross combined weight.
Yep, up to
82,000
pounds.
On a full fuel cell.
Yes. Yep, with 100% fuel hydrogen capacity. One of my favorite things is how easy it is to steer.
Yeah, there is almost no effort.
Right, yeah. And so you're actually like kind of one-handed in it as you go through some of these things. And I love that because it makes the driving experience better, right? Because you can focus more on what's going on, less on, this truck it's fighting me. Oh, I'm in this turn. This is a little bit harder and stuff like that. And so I love that. And that's one of those things that, again, as the drivers are driving it, they're experiencing that and they can actually focus on what's happening more and not so much on, oh, the truck is doing this and the truck is doing that. I can focus on just getting my load where I need to go.
Yeah, totally. And I noticed when I was accelerating, the traction control light is blinking a little bit. Is that because we're losing a little bit of traction?
Yeah. So as you start to accelerate harder, the truck is going to say, okay, hold on, let's maintain grip here. So it's kind of like your ABS too, right? When you're going to slow down, you want to make sure you maintain as much grip as possible. So
totally. Well, also there's no weight of the trailer down on the axle.
Yeah, and that's part of with the power, right? We have with the electric motors, you have so much torque that we have to be mindful of that, right? We don't want to have drivers doing burnouts and things like that, trying to conserve those tires. And so putting in those safety features like traction control is going to help them conserve that and help the driver stay safe and maintain control over the vehicle.
And this is only two-wheel drive, right? There's one axle is powered?
Yes, it's one drive axle.
One axle powered.
Yeah, so it'd be a 6x2. So there's two positions of drive that are going. Yep.
Yeah. This is a cab-over style truck. What does that mean? That means the axle is basically underneath my seat, not in front of me, and there is no hood sticking out in front of me as well, obviously. So the visibility is quite good. This is the only cab that currently Nikola is building. Actually, they're partnered with Iveco, and they have many other partners that they work with on multiple components like the fuel cell, the batteries, the electric motor, and more. But as a trucker, you want storage. And this truck, let me stand up for just a second, has storage. And actually, I'm just about 6'3". And look, I can fully stand up. And there's shades for this sunroof here, and this is a day cab, which means it doesn't have a sleeper cab, so it's basically for shorter trips, and they say 500 miles, so it's really a regional haul type of truck. Let me sit down again, and you have plenty of storage. You have another compartment here, and on the other side you have cab lights. You have some blanks, maybe you have some other features coming in the future. You have pretty huge, look at this, sun visors. You also have little side visor. So they really thought about many different aspects of it. There's also a little track here along the top, I believe for a curtain. So obviously this cab can be used for multiple types of uses. You could extend it in the future to make a sleeper cab. So if you want to fully enclose this cab with a curtain, you will probably be able to do that in the future, just not quite yet. Recently, Roman and Tommy bought a Ford Model T in 1915, and that little truck, had two horns. This also has two horns. Main horn, smaller electric. So it's just for different uses, you know. If you're on the highway, you can use this main horn. If you're in the city and if you need to alert somebody of your presence, if this truck is really too quiet, then you can use this horn. But I did notice that the fan for the cooling system of the fuel cell is an electric fan, and it spins up pretty heavily, and you could hear it when it's on. You can hear it from a long ways away. I know I've also done videos about using cameras for side mirrors, but still here in the US we have regulations for mirror size, and that you're actually supposed to have side mirrors, and this truck doesn't disappoint. My goodness, there's so much vision here. I love how the convex mirror works. I can see my axle below me and how it turns, and of course down the side of my vehicle on both sides. There's a lot of software integration with this truck as well. So this is my air brake system release and my trailer brake system, and I can run in bobtail mode like I've been doing with Ryan, and it's all integrated into the system. There's certain modes and also a way to kind of simplify some of these features. And this is my transmission in switch right here, neutral, drive, and reverse. My start and stop is right here. So it really feels like any pickup truck or any modern car. This is what I was talking about. They have sensors here on the side of the truck to help with blind spot monitoring. This truck is also equipped with lane departure warning system and also accident avoiding in the front, accident braking system, and cameras. So this truck has a lot of technology to help the driver, but at least right now, not replacing the driver. I'm in the front here. You may hear the fan, it's slowed down a lot, but this has a large grill area. So what they've done with this iteration of the truck for the fuel cell, they moved the front of it a little bit forward to make way for this large radiator to exchange all the heat. But by doing that, they also made it a little bit more aerodynamic by elongating the front just a little bit. So it's a little bit more efficient, more aerodynamic now, and allows a lot of airflow through the system. It's still a big truck moving a lot of weight. So if you thought a semi-truck like this would be a fully closed front, With no radiators, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And right now you have one cab configuration. This is the cab.
Yep. Yeah,
that
so
currently
for
exists.
both, right? BEV and fuel cell would have the same exact cab interior, and even when you look at the screens, they're relatively the same. The main big difference is going to be having your hydrogen versus your battery SoC, right? So one of the nice things is, let's say a fleet has both vehicles and a driver has to switch between the two. Say, you know, for their first loads, they're running into a city and they're going to use their full battery electric vehicle. And then the next one, they're actually going to go hub to hub and they need to drive a fuel cell. When they get in and look at screens, everything's familiar, right? They're going to be the same. So this way, there's less of that learning curve, right? Less of that transition in between the two. They don't have to translate between. It's like, oh, which one am I in again? They're going to get in and they're going to look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's the same displays. So getting in, starting it up, operating it, it's all the same.
All right, so now I go into neutral.
So
correct?
all you got to do is pull the yellow.
Okay.
That puts the truck back into neutral, sets the parking brakes, and it's as simple as that.
So it's just like one operation, like not multiple operations.
Yeah.
You're trying to make it more efficient,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Right, that's that decreasing that learning curve. So as the drivers get into it, even if they're a conventional driver and they haven't driven a truck for a while, you get in. This is much more like a passenger. Get in, set yourself up, start the truck, release the brakes, hit drive, and you're gone.
And we're hearing a fan, right? Is that because
Yeah, so
I was getting on it a little bit?
Yeah, so that's our thermal system, right? As your battery levels start to go up and your fuel cell levels go up, because as the ambient temperature starts to increase, those thermal systems are going to come in and out, right? Just like a normal passenger vehicle or a normal truck, those thermal systems are there to protect your powertrain.
Awesome. I appreciate your overview, and it was a really good driving experience. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
All right.
I have driven several electrified semi-trucks already in limited fashion, and I can tell you some of those trucks were prototypes and they seemed like they had certain things that were not quite finished. This particular one, they're already selling these, so they better be finished. And I can tell you right here, right now, that it feels like a full package. Everything works like it should. The steering adjusts, the seat adjusts, there is no extra noises. Yes, the fan is pretty noisy. That's the cooling fan for the fuel cell. But other than that, it's a seamless drive. It's really easy to operate. So I'm really surprised by that and also pleased. But this is not a full review because I did not pull a trailer. I did not go long distance. All of those things are still coming. So come back to alltfl.com for a lot more real-world truck testing, including the new Nikola fuel cell electric semi-truck, because I want to do a range test with a trailer. I want to compare it to a diesel tractor. I want to do the iGauntlet World's Toughest Towing Test, and that is still to come. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.